Anger. I produced this partly in response to the anger I see on the Forestdale Facebook page in relation to a young boy that is allegedly to have stolen things and continues to be hanging around the neighbourhood. Here is just a few examples of some of the comments that were made. However, not many people make these sort of comments. It would seem I'm not the only one that thinks that a lot of people are angry. Perhaps some people are keeping it to themselves. Okay, so I thought I would educate myself and find out a bit more about anger, and also perhaps educate other people at the same time while I'm doing it. So here I looked up, as you can see, Wikipedia, which is my normal reference for such material. So Wikipedia says that anger, also known as wrath or rage, is an intense, emotional state involving a strong, uncomfortable, and non-cooperative response to a perceived provocation, hurt, or threat. Notice the word perceived, not necessarily real threat, but a perceived provocation, hurt, I found this document on the internet as well. It's put out by, as you can see from the bottom here, Berkeley University, I get the impression. Be well at work. It talks a bit about anger. But one of the things I found amusing, I liked about this one, is it talks about the experience of anger. It says here, the experience of anger, I don't want to have that there. The experience of anger is learnt and varies from person to person. For example, someone may cry when they feel angry, while someone else may yell, while still others may be withdrawn, to name just a few of the ways in which anger manifests. The important thing that I picked up with that, which I knew the rest of it, but I didn't realise that experience is learnt. You actually learn. The experience of anger is learnt. And it says here, further down, we usually learn how to experience and deal with anger in our families of origin. There may be families where emotions are constantly expressed regardless of the consequences, while others may not be able to tolerate and show any show of emotion. Also, often within families, some members are allowed to express certain emotions while others are not. So that's the thing I picked up most from that. If this document I've got elsewhere, I will put a link to this particular document elsewhere. Now, in addition to that, I've also got, if I just change back here somewhere, that's not it, this particular thing here, right, this particular document I found as well, which is talking about anger being a secondary emotion, which I did not realise. Well, when you think about it, it's logical, but anyway, it says anger is often called a secondary emotion because we tend to resort to anger in order to protect ourselves or cover up other vulnerable feelings. We almost always feel something else first before we get angry. We might first feel afraid, attacked, offended, disrespected, forced, trapped, or pressured. So all those things lead to anger. So anger itself is a secondary emotion. That's what I picked up most from that. So once again, something else I've read. Want to know more? So I've got my notes at the end, and I will link to it. Using Mr. Jackman's face, his angry face, we've learnt that angry is an emotional state, that anger is learnt, and anger is a secondary emotion. Going back to this youth in Forestdale that's causing the problem for a lot of people, it reminds me of the old black and white movie called 12 Angry Men. If you don't know about it, as you can see from Wikipedia here, 12 Angry Men is an American courtroom drama concerning a jury homicide trial right, was done in 1954 and then later on made into a film in 1957. Basically, a quick description of the movie is that the play explores the deliberations of a jury of a homicide trial in which a dozen men with ties decide the fate of a teenager accused of murdering his abusive father. At the beginning, they are all nearly unanimous in concluding that youth is guilty. One man dissents, declaring him not guilty, and sows the seeds of reasonable doubt. Eventually, he persuades the other jurors to support a unanimous not guilty verdict. If you want to have a look at it, if you look up in Google for 12 Angry Men, it's well worthwhile watching, and you can see what I mean by anger when it comes to these sorts of things. Okay, so that's it.
On the point of that night,
turn the volume
a man's life is at stake.
So Henry Fonda's in the movie, and it's worthwhile watching just to get some sort of perspective on it in terms of what we're going through at the moment. Okay, all right, that's enough about that. Except I'll just look at the scene. Now, here's the more important part. How to handle other people's anger. I found this particular website by doing a search and came across it. It actually says you have one free member only story left this month, so I get the impression you're meant to be a member to be able to get this thing, but looks like I can give you this link and you should be able to get to it. Righto, so this particular person, Nick Wignall, has talked about some strategies to do with other people's anger. So this is a bit of an introduction. And the first thing he's talked about is validate the anger, put boundaries on the aggression. And the first thing he talks about is to understand the difference between anger and it's functionally different from aggression. Now, what he's saying is anger is emotion we feel when we believe we've been wronged. Aggression, on the other hand, is the act of expressing our anger, mostly in terms of what we do and say. So I get the impression anger is the feeling, and aggression is bringing out the feeling in terms of, as it says, mostly in terms of what we do and what we say. Now, I'm not going to go through and read this whole article or explain what it's all about, but basically he's saying usually most people handle anger and aggression incorrectly. Both of them are handled incorrectly and they should be done a different way than what we would traditionally think how to do it. So there's a whole lot about this. It's well worth reading. What I'm going to do is, like with all the other material I've said, I'll put this all together on a website. I'll put a link to that website below this video so anybody can have a go to it and read the material. Now, one last thing is, what about people that can't have trouble reading? And I know sometimes there are people who have trouble reading material, in which case what I suggest you do is contact me and I can give you some ways of so you can get the computer or a computer or phone or whatever to read this information to you. Then there's people that don't understand. I suppose if you don't understand any of this material, it's probably well worthwhile. Once again, you can be in contact with me and I can talk one-on-one to you about it if you're interested. Okay? If someone's really, really serious, there's obviously those things like Beyond Blue and other organisations where you can contact them and get some direct online support. I'll put some links to telephone numbers for those people at those places as well. Now for something a little bit lighter, here's some drone footage that was taken around the Forestdale area, Greenwood Lakes, Forestdale Lakes, in a much drier period.